and specifically of digital transformation. There is no digital transformation without business transformation and cultural transformation to achieve enduring greatness. And I'm gonna change hats because we're gonna be talking about unleashing the power of great people and organizations. And to do that, we need to engage our organizations at multiple levels, and we need to find out who are the amplifiers of the initiatives that we care deeply about in our organizations. So the theme here changes a bit on my background, as you probably can see, and I'm going to share my presentation with you, and you should be seeing that coming through momentarily here. There we go. And we are on. All right. Unleashing the power of great people and organizations. So these people who are behind me here, the people who are in your organization. Now, all that I'm going to talk about is not some book that I read or some theory that I think sounds really good. Everything that I'm going to share with you is based on empirical evidence of over 30,000 excellence and innovation leaders globally. This represents over 100 organizations in more than 20 countries. This is empirical evidence. This is not theory. If there is theory, it has been applied, it has been observed to work. I'll tell you, out of this group, if I look at the great enduring organizations and leaders in this group, they do not have the ability to predict the future, although many of them are called to be visionaries. But they are not visionaries. They do not have the ability to predict the future. What they do is that they're highly empirical. They experiment constantly. They see what works, they see what doesn't work. And once they see something that works, they try to understand why it works. And once they understand why it works, they scale that with incredible levels of discipline. But let's go and take a look behind the scenes and see what those organizations and those leaders look like. First of all, I'm going to be talking about greatness here, which is highly confusing, because if you look at a total distribution of the population of people and organizations, greatness by definition is at the very tip of that distribution. And this end tip of the distribution has very specific behaviors that are different from the rest. And there is no way that you can maintain the position of greatness, by the way, by just exhibiting those behaviors over a short period of time. You have to be chronically consistent with those behaviors with a long period of time. So keep this in mind, because some of the things I'm going to talk about may seem counterintuitive and confusing, because I'm describing a very narrow slice of the overall population. Okay, so I have a question for you to get us started here. And the question is, in this journey of achieving greatness through whatever transformation we have, whatever technologies that we have, what do you think that matters most? So put on the submit questions, submit a question and tell me, oh, you know what, Jose, I think what matters most on my journey for digital transformation are the ideas that we're going to come up with on how we're going to create value for our organization through digital implementation. Oh, no, it's going to be the methods. It's about the discipline framework, because we know that without the discipline framework, we can't get it right. Oh, no, Jose, it's going to be about technologies, the right exponential technology, RPA, NLP, process mining, AI applied in the right context for value creation. So that is it. That's the biggest driver. Oh, no, it's going to be people. So what is your opinion? Go into the questions box right now and send to me. Submit your opinion. It's anonymous. Nobody else can see. I can see it, but nobody else can see what you're saying. If you have to pick one out of these 4 items on what matters most on your transformation to achieve enduring greatness, what would you say? So is it ideas, is it methods, is it technologies, or is it people? Submit your questions right there. I already see them coming through. Awesome. I'm keeping an eye on them. Ideas, methods, technologies, or people? You have to pick one. Which one do you pick? And are you working on that? So pick one, keep voting as we talk through this. I'll give you the answer later on. There is a right answer to this question. So the journey for transformation towards enduring greatness is not an easy one. It's an arduous journey. And it's arduous because it requires you to have vision and envision what that state looks like for your business, for your organization, for how you serve society. Then you have to think about how you're going to achieve that vision, and that requires a level of innovation in that journey. And as you're doing that innovation towards that new vision, you are transforming the organization. But there is no digital transformation without business transformation, without cultural transformation. And cultural transformation requires personal transformation, because organizations are just like individuals. They represent our collective. So there is no cultural organizational transformation without individual personal transformation. And this is why it is so hard. And this is why you hear about all these great technologies failing left and right. 80% digital transformation failures, billions of dollars on systems that are like put aside over time, and you don't really harvest the value creation potential of those systems. Why is it so hard? Well, transformations are hard because cultures resist what they most need to change. As simple as that. Because organizations are like people. They are not wired for change. They were created for an original purpose, and then they were told to behave in certain ways to fulfill that purpose, and then you start changing things on them. Everybody in the organization wants, they're wired for safety and predictability. This business of change and transformation, this sounds like consultant speak because they make a living out of that. For me, I do not. It's change is fine as long as it not affect me. Transformation is even more radical because now you want me to become something else. So this is really, really hard. And it's easy to overlook and you just start thinking and focusing about one of these items. Oh, you know what? This is a bit overwhelming. So, I have control over this little span here. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to focus on ideas. And ideas are very important because we need to get all this input from the organization. We need to have a broad view of the possibilities so that we can prioritize and identify what creates the most value. But ideas are everywhere. What are uncommon in your organizations are people willing to put their reputation behind those ideas. Well, we're going to say it's methods. Oh, no, Jose, it's methods. Because yes, you said it, ideas are everywhere. We need methods. We need discipline framework to identify and prioritize the right things to do. Well, sounds good, Bill. But I have been a Lean Six Sigma, a certified Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt for 3 decades. And for most people, that sounds like a dangerous mental condition. Doesn't help them. Because if I'm just taking methods to transform a business, I'm going to find out very soon that methods do not transform businesses. People do. All right, Jose, forget about it. So I'm not going to talk about being a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt anymore. I'm going to focus on the exponential technologies that are revolutionizing our world today. Well, technologies are great. All of the exponential technologies that have been enabled by this acceleration of Moore's law over decades now are here with us. Time of exponential change. Technologies are awesome when they enable your processes to deliver the value to the client. But remember that technologies can also make stupid happen at the speed of light. And there's a lot of that going on today that is just cool and neat, and we got to use it. We got to figure out a way of using it. So you end up enabling not the right things in your processes. So, okay, I got it. Tricky question, right? Well, it was people. I had voted for people anyway because I hear all the time that people are our most important asset. Well, Kyle, that sounds really good, but why is that these organizations that I work with, when we do mergers and acquisitions, the first people to go are the people, but the assets stay there? So there's a contradiction here about them being the most important asset. I am not talking about the nice things. I'm talking about the reality of things. I mentioned early on, this is an empirical journey, not a theoretical journey. And from an empirical standpoint, obviously from a human value perspective, all people matter. But the reality is that in your organizations, there are people who matter disproportionately. And I'm going to tell you that those people are the ones that you have to identify. The people who amplify the behavioral traits of the transformation that you are trying to implement in your organization. Now, which one is most important? None of the above and all of the above. It is a tricky question. It's about the intelligent blending of ideas, methods, technologies, and people. And this can be confusing because the world of greatness is highly confusing. The world of greatness is filled with contradictions. And people and organizations that like to live in this black or white world, they were gonna really struggle. And that's one of the reasons that very few people and organizations will achieve and sustain greatness, because achieving greatness require the intelligent blending of these forces that pull in very different directions. It requires the mastery of contradictions. In the world of mediocrity, people spend endless hours and days choosing between option A or option B. In the world of greatness, they realize that most often the best solution is the intelligent blending of A and B. And it is not a balance. It is an intelligent blend that is effective for your context. So there is lots of contradictions. We're going to be talking about the need for purpose and discipline. We're going to be talking about the need for exponential technologies and human values of trust, of collaboration, vulnerability. So, and there is no greater contradiction than the contradiction between excellence and innovation to achieve greatness. Because if you look empirically, and I ask you to do this, we have done this research for over 30 years, not only from a theoretical standpoint, but from a practical standpoint. But I ask you to examine your own experience set. Look back at the organizations and people who are enduringly great, not only achieving greatness, because that's actually easy compared to sustaining greatness. So they achieve greatness and they're able to sustain the greatness. Look at that subset. And I will share with you what we have learned. And I bet that you have experienced something similar. Those organizations, they are not the most excellent organizations in the world. By all means, they have high performance standards and they meet and exceed those performance standards consistently. But if they only do that, they will eventually become obsolete. So the greatest enduring organizations of our time, they are not just the most excellent organizations. Now you might say then, oh, okay, I got it, Jose. I know you love innovation. It must be about innovation, right? Wrong. The great enduring organizations of the last not only century but historically speaking, they are not the most innovative organizations. Whoa, that sounds contradictory. No, they are not. The most innovative organizations, they do great innovations, but they often fall in love with innovation or technology, and then they lose sight of their purpose and they scatter. The most innovative organizations are not the great enduring organizations of our time. So the great enduring organizations of our time are the organizations that have an intelligent blending of excellence and innovation. Now, this sounds simple, but it's incredibly difficult because excellence and innovation pull in very different directions and require behavior traits that are contradictory in building a culture that has contradiction as an inherent element of that culture, that has strong weight on excellence but also innovation. Now, if you're in the horse business, by all means, you have to squeeze efficiencies out of those horses. You have to make them faster, cheaper, stronger. But remember, so this is the world of excellence. The world of innovation is sitting over here and saying, well, listen, I don't get to design cars by squeezing efficiencies out of horses. So it almost has a disdain for that other world. And in the reality, what you find with great enduring organizations is that what they have is both. They have high levels of excellence in their existing business and core and adjacencies, yet they have the capability to step away from that excellence, look at it from a distance and say, there's got to be a better way. Not a 5 or 10% better way, a 5 or 10-fold better way that we can take a complete different perspective of this problem. And that's the innovation piece. But this is the most important portion. When you have that innovation piece, you do not become dominant by just continuously innovating on that piece. You become dominant by scaling the innovation you have created better than anybody else. And do you know how you scale innovation consistently with your purpose? You scale innovation consistently with your purpose by applying the principles of excellence to the innovation that you created. So although excellence and innovation dislike each other, they are fundamental in a partnership for achieving and sustaining greatness. So with that background, I mentioned before, this is not based on what I think about the world. It's not even my insights. These are the insights of over 100 cross-industry organizations in more than 20 countries, and then 5 organizations that I spent considerable time with because I was not advising them on anything. I was leading excellence and innovation for them, and I had to live with the consequences of the advice that I had for the organization. So I want to go very quickly through each one of these organizations because there is 1 or 2 lessons from these organizations that I want to summarize for you. And I want you to think about these lessons, and I want you to consider about how do we apply these lessons in my organization, in our context. All right, so I was born in Brazil. I grew up in Brazil. And when I got to college age, I came to the United States. My background, academic background, is in engineering physics, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and then grad school in investment banking and entrepreneurship. Wonderful, highly educated. My first job was working for a Japanese giant, Sony Electronics, operations in Rancho Bernardo, California, and in Japan, of course. Now, this was like a dream job for me. And this is my journey of excellence and innovation, where it all started. And the lesson from Sony is very simple. When I joined Sony, my mentor and leader at Sony and boss his name is Shigo Hayashi, Hayashi's son. And I'll give you a short version of my interaction with Hayashi's son. But in my first week there, he asked me to identify 100 innovations. And I was like, whoa, hold on. I'm the new guy. I don't have background on these amazing technologies that are going on around here. And he says, you must do. So he put me to work on things that I knew very little about, and he expected me to innovate on those things. I thought I was going to get fired by the end of the week, and I was totally unprepared for that. I didn't even know what innovation was. I came up 100 innovations by the end of the first week, and then on the second week he said that I need to do 200. And I won't go through the details of that, but I'm going to tell you what the lessons were for me. First of all, it's a mix of fear and excitement because I felt inept. I felt that I needed more training. I needed more knowledge so that I could do certain things. But the lesson from Hayashi's son is one of the greatest lessons of innovation in my life. When it comes to great innovation, it doesn't matter where your gender, race, ethnicity is. It doesn't matter how many certificates you have hanging on the I love myself wall. When it comes to real innovation, you are looking for people in your organization who have some very specific traits, behavioral traits. And those behavioral traits, they are only determined by the test of innovation execution. There's no profile or resume review that will give me that. I have to create a meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms, empower people to go do it, even if they feel they're not ready for it. They will never be ready to innovate because you're going into uncharted territory. So there's no amount of knowledge and training to get them ready. They have to find their way. But the traits that are exposed by this meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms are: they have a strong sense of purpose that includes their personal purpose and value aligned with their professional purpose and organizational purpose and values. Number 1. That's followed up by tremendous levels of passion for what they do, whatever that is. And then it's followed up by incredible discipline and incredible resilience. So what you're looking for are people with purpose, passion, discipline, and resilience. Remember that. Also, you're looking for people who are not experts, because in the mind of the experts, there is only one way. You're looking for people who are not just novices either, because in the mind of the novice, there are many ways. What you're looking for are people who can flex their mind from expertise to novice. You start with the mind of the novice, there, where there are many ways of attacking a problem. But then you do need some expertise mindset to scale the mind of the novice. So again, it's not about one or the other, it's about the intelligent blend of these contradictions of expertise and novice. When I left Sony, I joined a startup company that changed the world, Cymer ASML. I was incredibly lucky to join a company that transformed Moore's Law in the semiconductor industry. The organization designed new laser systems that allow the shrinkage of semiconductor devices to follow Moore's Law. To this day, we image circuits with these laser systems. And this company went from nothing, I have an idea, I have no background in this industry, to disrupting the industry and having over 90% market share in a period of 5 years. So the lessons there are twofold. Disruption comes from anywhere. Number two, just bringing the smartest people in the world in your company and having and telling them to go innovate and make things better is not going to work. You need to have a clear common purpose, and you need to develop capabilities in your organization of what we call collaborative leadership. Collaborative leadership is not consensus building. Collaborative leadership is the ability to take a group towards a common purpose, even though members of that group may disagree on a whole host of things. Now, when I left, so remember that lesson, develop collaborative leadership capabilities in your organization. When I joined Nestle as their innovation leader, now we're in an ecosystem with 350,000 employees, 585 business units. Where do you start? I don't know. It's incredibly difficult. So lesson on a large organization, this is applicable to any organization, but especially in very large organizations, culture doesn't come in just one flavor. You have multiple layers of culture, but here's the takeaway. You must have deep empathy for the culture of the organizations that you're with. You need to meet them where they're at, because if culture eats strategy for breakfast, excellence and innovation and digital transformation are just side dishes in the jaws of culture. They're gonna get chewed up and spit out. So meet people and organizations where they're at, have tremendous empathy for their culture before you have the audacity to try to change their culture. Now, next, I spent 12 years with an organization that is over 100 years old, developing some of the greatest infrastructure projects around the world. More than 12,000 pure infrastructure engineers, interdisciplinary, mechanical, electrical, civil structural, chemical, petrochemical, all sorts of incredibly smart people who have been doing things right for over 100 years. So we're asked to accelerate excellence and innovation and transform the culture transformation, business transformation, digital transformation. So how do we do that? So I'll give you a snapshot here. For 6 years, we had a world-class Lean Six Sigma program in this organization. Nothing wrong with that. Lean Six Sigma is awesome as a disciplined approach to identify, prioritize, and innovate on what creates the most value for the organization. But there is a problem. If you look at improvement and innovation programs cross industry, and there's plenty of research on this that you can tap on, you're going to find out that people start these programs, all of them, improvement and innovation programs, very excited, but 50% of them are dead by year 3, and 99% of them are gone by year 5, or they start something new. There is no consistency with their purpose because they do not create the value that's expected. Now, in this organization, we had gotten to year 6. So it's like, yeah, we're part of the 1% club, right? And we said, no, yeah, we're moving along here, we're creating value, but how can we create exponential value? How can we derive exponential engagement? So we stop focusing on just on the ideas and the methods and the selected few that we think have the answers. Let's apply the principles that I mentioned to you, that it's not about ideas, methods, or technologies. It's not even about people. It is about finding the right people in your organization. People with purpose, passion, discipline, and resilience. Open that up. Let them come in and see what you have, okay? And how can they contribute? Make it voluntary. Create a meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms for them, and tell them you have to do nothing. Yes, you heard it right. It's completely voluntary. We only want people here who believe that they can collaboratively lead and execute an innovation for us. Now, when I presented that to my CEO, he thought, you're crazy. This thing is going to blow up. It's not going to go anywhere. People are going to hide. Now you have to inspire self-motivated individuals to join, and then you have to create a system that's transparent and clear on how they're going to be part of it. And we did this, and what I'm showing you here is not the theory, is the actual results. Over a 10-year period, what we saw was not a degradation of performance by doing that shift. What we saw was an exponential increase in engagement and in value creation. Over 800% improvement in engagement, over tenfold improvement in voluntary engagement worldwide, with more than 5,500 professionals collaborative leading improvements and innovations that create value for the organization. And now again, the message here is the shift from ideas and methods and NPL and AI and this technology to the real entrepreneurs, the real innovation accelerators, the real value creation leaders in your organization that can be anywhere in the organization. You need to allow them to emerge in your organization. Now, in the last stage of my corporate career, I was the global vice president for a very large, a Fortune 100 energy company. But this company had a theme of going for extraordinary. But they were anything but extraordinary when this journey of transformation started with them. It's 2010, and in 2010, they were a $2 billion energy organization at that time. They had been pounded by the 2008 financial crisis, and they were really struggling to come out of that. They had been around for a few decades, and they really had kind of hit that mediocrity threshold because they had a $2 billion market valuation, which was less than their book value of their assets at that time. So what's going on at this company? There comes a new CEO, and the new CEO says, you know what? We're going to build a culture here that's going to have excellence as foundational and entrepreneurship as foundational in an organization that it's, in an industry that is very, very traditional. So there is no doubt there was culture. There was that CEO support to do it. For me, it was like the greatest playground ever, because all of these concepts of excellence and innovation that I mentioned to you, we could implement right away with strong leadership support. So what do? We implement a meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms. We develop collaborative leadership widely in the organization, accessible to all. We made it volunteer for emerging and senior leaders to get engaged and drive the most value for the organization. And they did that. And by 2017, they're delivering over 2,000 innovations per year, greater than $1 billion in financially validated additional EBITDA for the company. And this $2 billion company in an 8-year period became a $35 billion enterprise. They had no specific competitive advantage other than their culture, widely disseminated collaborative leadership and innovation execution skills. So let me pause here. Okay, Jose, what is the takeaway for me? Develop collaborative leadership and innovation execution skills in your organization today. Create a meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms to unleash the power of your people to go for extraordinary. If you were able to zoom in this picture, you'd see myself with 14,000 people. Innovation is a full contact sport. Okay, you have to be where people are at. You got to meet them where they're at, where their culture is at, and you bring them along with a meritocracy of ideas and clear execution mechanisms, and they will come along. You have to inspire them and provide them the clear mechanisms to translate the principles into action. So think about, are you doing this for your organization right now, or you're just too concerned about how you're going to implement process mining in this one area? Nothing wrong with that. but you're not going to be able to scale your organization by just doing this tactical 1-point things. You need to think about how you're going to create a system in your organization to scale the power of your people to go for extraordinary. Now, this is all very good. What is the background for all this stuff? The background is that in 10 years, 40% of the Fortune 500 companies no longer exist. That sounds terrible, but it's the reality. As a matter of fact, it's not even a future prediction. It's a past prediction that was wrong. This was predicted in 2011. I had conferences like this, and I'm telling you, in 10 years, we're going to be 40% of Fortune 500s no longer exist. People say, oh, Jose, come on, that's fear mongering. Well, Bill, guess what happened? In 2019, before the pandemic, so that you don't think that the pandemic distorted this data, more than 50% of the Fortune 500 companies were no longer existed. So yes, this prediction was wrong. It was greater than 40%, and it didn't take 10 years. It was within 8 to 9 years when that happened. Now, this changed because of macroeconomic forces and the exponential pace of technology that we have today that is unprecedented in the history of mankind. Because of these forces, this pace of change continues to increase. So we're not going to wait another 10 years to see a repeat of this. We're going to see that in the next 5 years. Now, the question is, whoa, now I'm totally overwhelmed. How can I predict the future in a world that's changing so fast? Well, I'll tell you, you cannot. There are only two types of people who predict the future: those who don't know and those who don't know that they don't know. You cannot predict the future when it's non-linear and exponential. It's not going to work. You're going to miss it. So all that you can do is to develop some capabilities personally and organizationally so that you can do better in whatever future happens. Now, here's what organizations still try to do today. They get around these big tables, steering committees and the board of director meetings and big meetings, and they try to predict the future. And they fail because they cannot. But they still spend millions of dollars on experts and forecasting and scenario planning, which cannot predict the future, but make them feel better because someone told them with some expertise that that's going to happen. Nobody can predict the future. I'm not saying these things are not useful at all. They are not useful for predicting the future. And that they can only provide you at very best rough directional guidance. And that's it. And I'm not saying you don't do any of these things. What I'm saying is that you have to understand the limitation of these methods, because there is no, there is no method like that that's going to predict the future. The best way to predict the future, the only way to predict the future, is to create it. And this is not new. It has been around for centuries. Setting the stage for innovation in organizations and society is not something new. Now, it's very misunderstood because there are so many platitudes talking about this thing. So I want to demystify and talk a little bit more about the mechanisms to accelerate innovation for value creation. So first step, please have a definition of innovation in your organization that is accessible to all and that people can do something about it. Okay, so if you want to have extraordinary innovation, you must define it in ordinary terms, accessible to all. That means that I don't have the time to go through the full illustration, but I'll summarize by telling you that, the word innovation means, the root word inno means new idea. So it is about a new idea, but new ideas, as we discussed before, are everywhere. What you're missing are people willing to put their reputations behind those new ideas. The other problem is that new ideas, most of them, they are like not good. And most of them, they create no value. So it's not about just new ideas. And you say, okay, I got it, Jose. I need new ideas that create value. Yes, Bill, you're getting close. But new ideas that create value is not it either. Because if I go into your organization, you have a cemetery of new ideas that create value. So what is missing? What is missing is implementation. So for you to have a full definition of extraordinary innovation in ordinary terms, you just have to say it's the implementation of new ideas that create value. That's it. Now, but this is incredibly difficult because this implementation is incredibly difficult. It's not about coming up with ideas. It's not about coming up with ideas that create value. It's about implementing and realizing the value. that makes it so difficult. And then there are different levels of innovation. Not everything that we do is just, you know, disruptive innovation, which is what you see 100% of the media. The coverage is covering what I would term disruptive innovation. They're very interesting, but by no means is what the most innovative organizations do. The most innovative organizations will have a portfolio of innovations at the core, at adjacencies, and at disruptive, with very specific and distinct innovation mechanisms. So I'm going to touch on this briefly, but remember this. Your employees look at what Google, Facebook, and Tesla do on TV, and they start thinking that that's what innovation is. That is the wrong definition of innovation, because if you work directly with those companies, you're going to see that their portfolio of innovations is much closer to this ratio that you see here. But the media only covers the last 10%. And you also have to have the mechanisms in these organizations through which this takes place. So to summarize for you here on how some of these key concepts and mechanisms work together, there is an innovation value creation maturity level in every organization that's doing well. They typically started with a very bright startup leader or organizational leader, individual brilliance. That person has passion, discipline, resilience, and they create a multi-million-dollar business. There will never be a multi-billion-dollar business unless they develop the next level capabilities. The next level capabilities are systems and mechanisms for innovation. They include clear governance for innovation, a clear structure with roles and responsibilities for innovation, and a clearly identifiable growth and technology accelerator as part of your organization as well. That gets you to be a multi-billion-dollar organization. And this is what really most of the organizations are striving for today. Now, then there's a very, very small group that has achieved enduring greatness when it comes to innovation. And what that very small and select group has builds on all of these things with collaborative leadership and innovation acceleration skills development widely done across the organization. It is built on an organization with a clear purpose, with a culture that's aligned with that purpose, and a strong set of core values that are aligned with that culture. And then they have mechanisms that translate the values and principles into value creation action. So with that, building a culture of collaboration, innovation, and value creation is the ultimate competitive advantage for any organization. But the devil's in the details on how you build that. And you have to build that by exhibiting the behaviors that are aligned with your purpose, they're aligned with your culture, aligned with your core values, aligned with value creation, because innovation and value creation are inextricably linked. If you cut that link, you're no longer innovating. So, very well. So let's review what matters most: ideas, methods, technologies, or people. Well, we discussed this. People, all of them matter. It's the intelligent blending of all of these things, and you need all of those things. But the matters most, if I have to pick one, is not just the people, it's the right people, the people who are going to amplify the cultural behaviors that you want to have emulated in your organization. So what do these people have, Jose? What do these people have? They have 4 traits that are only revealed by the test of execution. You're mining for gold in your organization. You're looking for this balloon behind me here, okay? So these people have 4 traits. They have purpose alignment. They have a high level of passion. I don't have time to go deep on this, but I want to just say that passion here is not like romantic love. Passion here is like an arranged marriage. People who work their face off on something and they develop the skill and the passion for it. Then discipline, which is not just following a regimented set of rules. It is about being chronically consistent with your purpose. The signature of mediocrity is not an unwillingness to change. The signature of mediocrity is chronic inconsistency at the personal level and at the organizational level. And lastly, resilience, which is the ability to overcome challenges collaboratively. That's why collaborative leadership skills are so critical. Now, with that, I'm going to spend the next few minutes here showing you what the mechanism looks like. And I'm going to play a little bit, so I have a little bit of levity on this, but this is the truth. In most organizations, there are even, I'm going to look at organizations that are actually doing well, okay? These organizations are doing well. If you look at these organizations and if you look at the senior and emerging leaders in those organizations, 80 to 90% of them are kind of sour-faced. I mean, what's going on here? These people make good money and they're kind of like, they're really not that happy with what they're doing. There is not a very good alignment between their personal purpose and their professional purpose, although they make good money. You know, I don't have time to go deep on that research, but it's out there. You can go look at it. Between $0 and $150,000 in the United States, when you increase your income level, you become happier. Beyond $150,000 to billions of dollars, there is no correlation. It's a flat line. And these people who are leading these organizations are typically doing pretty well, but they don't have that purpose alignment. So what can we do here if we're going to be great, not just good? What we need to do is to create a meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms. We need to inspire self-motivated individuals to say that, hey, we have a mechanism here that allows you to drive value creation and strategy execution through improvements and innovations. You do not force anybody to go through that. You just inspire them, let them volunteer in. And then you create this clear mechanism with very disciplined framework on how you're going to identify, prioritize, and execute on what creates the most value in the shortest time and simplest means, align with your purpose, align with your culture, align with your strategies. What you find out on the other end of this is that those who have the passion, the discipline, the resilience, they will get it done. It will be hard, but they will get it done. Once they get it done, you promote them to the rest of the organization along with their teams. You are democratizing innovation in your organization. Others now can look at it and say, hey, you know, if David can do it, I can do it too. And by the way, I was sitting on the sidelines because I was waiting for this plane to crash and burn, but it didn't. Actually, these people are delivering a lot of value. And so maybe I can do it too. And they start getting engaged on this, a clear execution mechanisms again for engaging them and driving the right initiatives in your organization. They're aligned with strategy and or value creation. Now, if you do this chronically consistent with your purpose, you're going to start exhibiting those behaviors that you want to be part of your new culture, the new behaviors, a new transformation that takes place. And over time, and this is again where the very few organizations in the world ever achieve this level, you're going to have full alignment of everybody who is in the organization, at least most of the people who are in the organization, and those who are outside want to come in because they see a way of using that organization as a way of aligning their personal and professional purpose. There is no work-life balance. That is a hoax. There is work-life blend that makes sense for every individual in that organization at a certain period of time. Now, to summarize all of this, ladies and gentlemen, and wrap up our session today, for you to accelerate excellence and innovation and your transformations, you don't have to go hire experts and technologists from other places. You need to look at your organization and you need to create a meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms, and you need to inspire self-motivated individuals in your organization to join your journey because it's a worthwhile journey. Most people will not join you, but the few who will, you are obligated to equip them with collaborative leadership and innovation execution skills. You're going to teach them how to take different perspectives at problems. You're going to teach them how to develop the courage to take on risk, but manage the risk accordingly so that you can have disproportional success. And you're going to create an environment for everyone where these great ideas and these great people can connect. Because if you look at innovation for value creation historically across cultures, that happens when we create environments on purpose or by accident where great people and great ideas can connect. And you have to create that environment in your organization. Now, you and I are no better at predicting what's going to happen in the future. I'll posit that based on empirical evidence over centuries, nobody can predict the future. But we can create the future, and we can create whatever future makes sense to your organization by building your culture, a culture with strong excellence and innovation. Contradictory, remember, forces that do not like each other. You have to build them in your culture so that you can effectively create the future where you can add value to all stakeholders. So building a culture of excellence and innovation as a strong component in your culture is your ultimate competitive advantage. This takes chronic consistency over a long period of time. But it's a journey that's very rewarding and worthwhile if you do it right, because you're gonna multiply your leadership. You're gonna support the growth of collaborative leadership skills and innovation execution skills in your organization, and you're gonna see personal, professional, and organizational development happen in front of you in a very tangible way, in a very measurable way. So you all know me already. I just want to wrap this up that, I retired a few years ago. And between now and the day that I die, this is what I'm going to be doing. And because this is the way that I serve society, the way that I see my own little mind, on the way that I use my craft to serve society. So find what you are meant to do, and then commit to the ardor of pursuing that with excellence. And I hope you never retire, because there are only two stages in life. You're either growing or you're dying, and you have to decide which ramp you're on. So keep growing until you can no longer grow. So with that, the journey is with us here in these conferences, but also you can contact me, and specifically on LinkedIn, you can see the journey that we have on a week-to-week basis. So thank you for your time. I see some of your questions. I will review them. I'll immerse on them, take them to LinkedIn, contact me directly, and we carry on the conversation. Now, let me change hats here again. I'm going to stop showing my presentation to you, and I'm going to go back to the I'm going back to my Proqis background here. There we go. And let's talk about what's coming up next. And what's coming up next here is a presentation from the group systems and processes leader at the engineering contracting company. And this is a BPM journey in a construction company, which is part of the ECC group, with highlights on process and task mining, automation, and digital transformation. We're gonna have directly from Dubai and the beautiful United Arab Emirates, Umar Murad with us. And Umar is gonna guide us through this journey of transformation that he is leading at the ECC group. So again, we have a few more examples here of that journey towards enduring greatness with some of our speakers who are going to share their expertise with you. Hope the session was useful for you, and I'll take a break now, and I'll see you back at the top of the hour.